I can't, dude.
So before the guard begins, I know I said I use a poll to dictate whether I use my own voice or not, but as I'm recording this, I'm not sure whether I have the time to do that, not to mention that a viewer left a great suggestion to please both parties, which I'm taking into consideration. That being said, I'm gonna try and do my best to use my own voice. Without further ado, here's the guide. Mercy's weapon, the stick, allows her to deal either 55 healing per second or apply a 30% damage increase to a single target up to 15 meters. Important interactions that wouldn't be considered tech would be that Mercy gains ultimate charge equal to the damage she amplifies, and in order to amplify projectile damage, Mercy must be boosting the hero when the projectile was fired. This means that if Mercy stops boosting even after the projectile was fired, the added 30% boost will still take effect, hence why Ash Dynamite is so powerful as early ult charge. Firstly, since the beam acts on line of sight, you cannot attach it onto a single target from behind a wall. However, there is a 1.3 second grace period where if the beam is attached prior to breaking line of sight, the beam will still apply the desired effect. This means in a sniper duel, you should be corner peeking to minimize the exposure of your own hitbox while still applying the damage or healing effect. Note that this also applies if Mercy is out of her 15 meter range. Secondly, the logic behind when to heal and damage boost is roughly the same with Ana and Moira. If the target you are healing doesn't need it, you should almost be exclusively using the damage boost. Notice I said target and not team, as that will be the job of your other support, specifically if you are running another primary healer. Here's Spilo explaining this concept a bit further.
In this instance, it was actually less of an issue than it would have been because you had a Zenyatta. So you were forced to heal your tanks occasionally, and that's the necessary evil. But if you're going Ana Mercy, Moira Mercy, Baptiste Mercy, ooh boy, you hardly ever heal. Pocket, 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 pocket. And actively think about who needs a pocket right now. You did it with the Blade. Yeah. Do it with the Deadeye. Do it at the range differences with the Hanzo long range, McCree short range. Do it with the instances or cooldown usages like Halt Hook or Reinhardt Fire Strike. Things like that. And you're going to see like your ult charge bump up, and like we said, it's free real estate, right? And you're going to get eliminations. You're going to get eliminations that would not have happened otherwise. Because you could look at this and say, hey, maybe there were like 2 or 3 elims that wouldn't have happened without damage boost. And maybe those 2 or 3 eliminations were spread across 2 fights, and we won 2 fights because I pressed right click. In addition, if you're the team that's doing more damage, if you damage boost your Hanzo Stormbow and it breaks the Rhine shield because of the damage boost, that team's not going to be pushing for 5 or 6 seconds. So you just bought your team another 7 to 8% in the control meter.
Thirdly, since your beam isn't burst healing, if you think that a burst of damage will be incoming soon, for example a shield about to break, switch beams preemptively.
Heal, unfortunate. Little slow in the swapping the heal orb there. You could actually anticipate when you need to swap to heal. When you start to see like a shield busts, you swap to heal preemptively, right? You expect him to take damage, so you go ahead and swap the heal beam before he takes damage so that he's immediately healing up the 50 HPS as the damage is coming in.
Fourthly, damage boost a target who's close to a game-changing ultimate for the next fight. A great example would be Ana who's 20 away from Nano Boost, or Zente Build Up Transcendence. Lastly, damage boost instances of damage. This requires the most awareness of what cooldowns your team uses alongside where your teammates are, but an example would be after a McCree lands a flashbang, after a Reinhardt fire strikes, or after your hog hooks. Note that, as mentioned prior, you only need to damage boost projectiles after they've been fired, then you can swap off to a different target to help min-max your output. Mercy's first ability, Flying Boy, makes Mercy fly towards a targeted ally at 17 meters per second up to a 30 meter range with a cooldown of 1.5 seconds. Her angelic descent also allows her to slowly glide downwards at 2 meters per second. As usual, starting off with tech. Firstly, the lateral slingshot. This is simply jumping at the end of your GA to gain some extra distance. Secondly, the vertical slingshot. This is the same as before, but the target you are flying towards is above you, as EVA describes here.
Pretty much just someone jumping in front of you, you can launch yourself up to 15 meters up in the air.
Thirdly, the classic super jump. This is crouching and using Guardian Angel at the same time, and jumping at the very end after you perform a small hop to launch yourself in the air. In terms of uses, here's Spilo going over an example.
Great super jump, great pocket. That might have been the best play you've had so far on either Lucio or Mercy. Check this out. Super jump, pocket, save your Widow life, swap to heal at the right time. Beautiful work right there.
Fourthly, the backward super jump. This is when you are above a teammate and you Guardian Angel when you are about to touch the ground, followed up by a jump afterwards. The distance from you and your teammate needs to be roughly 1 to 2 meters apart, otherwise you'll just Guardian Angel forward like normal. Fifthly, the backwards Guardian Angel. This is the same as the backwards super jump, but you can do this on level ground, which needs you to jump prior to using your Guardian Angel. Lastly, the Diagonal Guardian Angel. I've only seen this once, as you can see Tenso perform here in Contenders, and I assume the Genji counts as terrain, allowing the Mercy to fly above his blades. Whilst this is incredibly niche, I've never seen this in a Mercy guide, hence I thought I might as well be the first to it. In terms of usage, there are 3 main pillars or questions to ask yourself, otherwise known as RSW. Firstly, is the Guardian Angel risky? Secondly, how short should my Guardian Angel be? And lastly, is there a waste to use Guardian Angel? Going over the first point, here's Mineral explaining the risk associated with some Guardian Angels with some cost-benefit analysis.
Really don't like this. So you have to, again, value your life way more than anyone else's. You're way more important than a tracer. Even if your tracer dies here, it's fine. You guys can fall back, and you already have staggers. Your tracer will be back pretty fast. But if you shift in here and you die, you lose the point.
Secondly, here's Mineral explaining why, especially against snipers, shorter Guardian Angels are preferred.
They have snipers, so you have to use cover, right? You're gonna reach her. Like, your Pharah can't really go any higher. The skybox on this map is pretty low, so there's no need to go for a shift like this where you go over her head, because now you're completely exposed from this angle from snipers. Maybe a Sombra decloaks here, pokes you a little bit, and then Ash hits you, and then you're dead. So you have to make sure that you don't overexpose yourself. Do shorter shifts and cut them more often.
Linking into awareness here, Mineral yet again explains another benefit of cutting your Guardian Angels, which is to spot any squishy target who needs healing.
You cut your shift here, you stop, you float, and you fly up here. He doesn't want to fight these guys. He only wants to go for the Widow. So you have to understand the win condition. Pressure the objective, mark the Widow, because Widow is the only hero that can potentially one-shot anyone on their team.
Lastly, here's Spilo explaining how using Guardian Angel can end up in you being caught out of position with no escape.
All you need to do is walk forward so that your beam doesn't break to here, and then maintain the beam. All you do by traversing this distance is you put yourself at the risk of more damage, and you remove the cooldown that you might need to escape. So if this Lucio turns around and shoots at you, you still have your Guardian Angel. But if you Guardian Angel across here, and then they're all brawling here, you're gonna have to sit there and take it for 2 seconds.
Mercy's second ability, Uno Reverse Card V2, brings an ally back to full HP, taking 1.75 seconds to cast, with a 5 meter max range, a decreased movement speed of 75%, and a very lengthy cooldown of 30 seconds. Firstly, Resurrect is interrupted if Mercy is more than 7 meters away from her target whilst channeling. This becomes especially apparent in Valkyrie with our increased movement speed. This leads me nicely onto my second point, which is to strafe across all 3 axes in Valkyrie in order to stay in range, whilst maintaining some capability to avoid damage. Thirdly, you can perform a super jump res by simply resurrecting after you jump in the normal super jump. Here's Arno explaining it in a more broken down version.
Level 4 is the highest point at which you can super jump vertically. If you attempt a super jump res at level 4, your res will cancel and you will fly upwards like normal. To super jump res, you will need to time your jump a little earlier, around level 3, so you don't have enough vertical momentum to break the res, but enough to keep you off the ground and fall when you revive your teammates, making it a lot harder for enemies to hit you or stun you.
I also recommend this workshop code as given by one of my viewers, which I believe is better than Karku's listed workshop. Fourthly, linking to the first point, try and res around corners and utilise your Angelic Descent to resurrect whilst falling behind cover. A great example of the latter would be on Havana's second point by the vertical pipe canisters. Fifthly, utilise the 10-second respawn timer instead of resurrecting straight away to pull off last second resurrects. This is because by waiting a few seconds, both teams will have engaged, therefore cooldowns are exchanged between both teams, therefore attention is drawn elsewhere for you to get away with your resurrect. If there's one thing you should take away from this video, it's that very concept. For the penultimate tip, ask for resources such as Zarya Bubble, Diva Matrix, or even Transcendence in order to get away with your res safely. For the last tip, simply top off teammates before you res, as you can't heal for almost 2 seconds. Mercy's ultimate, Moth Lamp V2, gives Mercy increased speed, a 20 HPS self heal, a 60 HPS ally heal, and a chain heal with a range of 10 meters. The range for our staff and GA are also doubled. Apart from tech mentioned prior about strafing in Valkyrie, an obvious but overlooked tip is to be aware of your chain attachment range.
Remember that the beams created by Valkyrie have a range of only 10 meters, which doesn't cover the entirety of many objectives. Keep track of who your original beam target is so you can min-max the amount of impactful allies hit.
With usage, there are 2 main uses with a few niche uses. The first is the Valk to initiate, as Spilo goes on to further explain here.
If you're up one or down one, using Valk can sometimes switch the tide in your favor or just keep the fight going.
I always look at Valk as like the perfect example of the tempo ult. Like the fight has started, you now Valk. That basically triples or even quadruples your effectiveness because you're pocketing every single hero in the game. Now, obviously, you might have to turn off the damage boost to heal, but it just triples your effectiveness for a short period of time, and that is significantly underrated. And it makes you impossible to kill as well, so you can't turn off that support. So I look at it kind of like in the way that you were thinking about my Genji initiates, I'm going to Valk. Any initiation should trigger a Valk. It's not a hugely valuable ult, and just simply using the ult to win a fight is great. Don't counter, be proactive.
The second, which is more of an extension of the first point, is the Valk when you're 1 up or 1 down. This can help buy time for your team to be back to full resources or to quickly end a fight with just Valkyrie in a 6v5 situation. With niche uses, utilize the mobility from Valkyrie to be able to go deep into enemy territory without feeding, such as pocketing a Genji blade with Valkyrie. For the last niche use, Battle Mercy is quite underrated. As I don't have enough time to cover a pistol individually, it deals 20 damage per shot, with each projectile moving at 50 meters per second, and you should generally only use the pistol when you can't heal anybody. However, in Valkyrie, Mercy gains infinite ammo on a pistol with a double projectile speed, making it much more lethal. Utilize this by Valking to reach backline snipers quickly and then burst them down with a pistol. If you miss your shots, or if the sniper is being pocketed, don't even bother trying, just retreat to your team as you'll gain infinitely more value pocketing your entire team. On to the penultimate section of the guide, positioning and awareness. With Mercy being a low mechanically demanding hero, it's important you make vital calls, as Mineral goes into more depth here.
Now when you're going for this shift, what do you need to say?
I'm leaving you to Farah.
Now your Farah has absolutely no idea that you just left her. So you either need to do one, tell her you leave her and to tell her that she should please save. They have kill potential right now on your Farah. Or number 2, order her to fall back and kill this Winston.
When playing Mercy in a range comp, such as Farah Widow, you must always be in a position to where you can fly back to your Widow.
Look around a lot more. Like you're looking at your Farah's way too much. You have to always look back. Where's my Widow? Where's my Widow? Not only for her, but she is your defensive pivot. Widow is sort of also part of your group, and she's going to be somewhere behind you, so she's going to be a pivot for you. Like Ana starts shooting you, a diva flies at you, you have to know where the Widow is, because that will determine how far you can move up. Because if you would realize, oh, in this situation, I don't have LOS on the Widow, you would reposition differently, just so you have an escape.
There are some important calls that Mineral highlights in Valkyrie as well.
What else is good, like a good call, get into the habit of doing when you're Valking?
Calling that you're doing it, or calling I can contest point.
And what else?
Stay close together.
I mean, that's the big thing that I was looking for. Especially when you're solo healing, when you're brawling on the point. Very important that you call, stay on Hammond or something like that. Especially with a composition like this, where there's a lot of 200 HP targets. Like you saw, when everyone gets kind of low, it's very difficult for you to keep all of them up. And when you're using Valk, that's the perfect time where all of them can get topped up, or all of them can get damage boosted. And that's an insane amount of burst that you can put out. But that's, again, up to you to create that scenario. A group on Hammer, group on point for heals or something like that. Heals on point, everyone's going to come to point. So we're coming back to these mid-fight calls that you really need to start making.
As a niche but important tip for scrims, is actually body block during an important ultimate such as Barrage.
Koma routinely does this, risking his life as the Mercy to give a sort of soft tanking onto the Farah, jumping in front of the line of sight of the enemy, body blocks. And because Mercy has an innate self-heal, swooping in to block the line of sight and tank a bit of damage and then fly back out, adds further sustain to the pharmacy combo. But more importantly, even if the Mercy were to die there, it's more important for the Barrage voice line to finish, because that's the win condition of the fight.
Lastly, ending off with backline synergies as usual. Mercy Brig. This is optimized for dive comps as you heal the DPS whilst Brig heals the tanks. You also do not need to worry about peeling for your other support, although keep in mind that Mercy Brig is one of the worst backlines for broad comps, as you have no defensive ultimate and no speed boost to cut it from danger. Mercy Honor. This is potentially Mercy's best pairing due to a mix of utility and high healing alongside some self-sustain. This kit is best to a slow-paced dive with ranged DPS, with your tank's posture on the front line to prevent a dive engage. Your job is to pocket your DPS and let your honor heal the front line. Mercy Lucio, the most popular ranked duo due to how much self-sustain each healer has. This works best in dive comps in order to make the most of the speed boost. Healing tanks or DPS depends on the style of dive and how reliant your DPS are on health packs. Mercy Zen, this is the most brittle combo due to low tank healing. This means you may have to prioritize aggressive tanks over pocketing DPS. However, keep your distance to utilize the shield break and try to tell your tanks to not force engagements if it's not needed. Mercy Moira. With an incredible amount of healing, you should almost exclusively be pocketing a DPS. However, due to low utility, TTK and damage, alongside having 2 weak support ultimates in comparison to the others, your skill cap may be limited. Mercy BAP. Similar to Mercy Moira, pocketing your DPS is a high priority, although make sure to look behind in order to peel for your BAP as he has no escape. Bunker comps suit this duo best, especially with the experimental changes. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. If this video also helped to raise your IQ, be sure to share it with your friends to also raise theirs. Until next time.
Big boy with that big broom. Big boy how I come through. Big boy with that brand new, cause I'm killing it.